Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. Well, welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. This is Let's Play Higurashi. Let me know in the comments any anime that you yourself like, and if you've ever watched the Higurashi anime. There's actually several of them. And if you liked the video, in addition to liking it, type 07 in the chat. Or comments, or whatever. You guys know what I mean. Keiichi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, just talk to us. I believe Mommy will be able to help out. Yesterday I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. But I didn't plan on dying. At least not while I still knew nothing. I would never allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if I have to gnaw my leg off. Yeah. See you then. Tomorrow morning, make sure to wake up. And eat your breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth. Yeah. See you. The call ended like that. Sometimes my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings, but Tokyo is far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance. It never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say that those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather, unnatural. Anyway, I only needed to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone. Missing. Vanished. Looking back on the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light on in the whole house was from my room on the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone, and this was their chance. First, I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned on the TV to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I simply turned on the lights and some music. With this from the outside, it would look like my parents were here. Once again, I went through the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. It should be fine now. Ah, the garage. They hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to Okonomiya Station. The garage was empty, wide open, and in plain sight. This was not good. I panicked and rushed out the back to close the normally open garage door. It should be fine now. Ah, I need to get the paper. Mom always got the paper. Since I left in the afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it in the entryway. With this, for sure, this time, it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freak-out was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell, and the bat I was holding smashed into it. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a little before Mom got back and scolded me. I remember that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet, and as I was going to get them, the phone rang once again. Hello? This is the Mabara residence. Oh, is this Keiichi-kun? Is your mother around? She isn't here at the moment. You idiot, Keiichi Mabara. Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can follow up still. Calm down and take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. That wasn't a good response either. Now they might say they'll call again, or to tell her to call them when she gets back. Then that's fine. It wasn't anything important. Well then, sorry for the bother. The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. That call was fortunate in more ways than one. I'd have to deal with more telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improvisation. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home, but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. That wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. It was like they're calling because they knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up the receiver. Hello? I stopped announcing this was the Mabara residence. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and light-hearted. Hello, my apologies for calling so late. This is Oishi from the Okonomiya bookstore. Oishi-san. Is that you, Mabara-san? Good evening. Good to hear that you are doing well. Well, wait just a moment, please. I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same, no matter where I was, since there was no one else at home. But I wanted to be in a spot that just felt a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Oishi-san. At this point, we just say, hey, man, my parents are gone. People are trying to murder me. How about you just come, stay the night over here? At worst, I'm just being paranoid. And no one's trying to hurt me. And heck, if I'm going insane, then at least you're there to keep that in check. And be a voice of reason. And, hey, I can discuss everything that's going on with you. Let you know why I feel a certain way. And also why I'm not talking to my parents. Because I feel like, it would just endanger them. And I feel like they love me. They're there. But I can't really rely on them. Don't want to get them hurt either. Also, the instant noodles, we have them. But you could probably bring some food, man. Sorry for the wait. How are things? Any change since then? When? Then? When was that exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked that rubbed me the wrong way. Is it someone pretending to be Oishi-san? It's not actually him, is it? It's somebody after all, the phone call came way too soon after the last phone call. This is a trick. It's not actually the old man talking to me. It's someone pretending to be him. This is a trap. This isn't the detective. Now, I'm not saying Mion can do ventriloquism or change your voice. I'm saying after all, somebody had to be driving that van to try to murder me. And they've already tried to kill me over and over, so they could just know somebody else. After all, the whole village is in on it together. They're all trying to kill me. So it wouldn't be that. They know the detective. He's been there multiple times. Surely they know somebody who has a voice similar to his. At least where I can pass for it. And after all, I've been a little bit out of his sorts, so I was probably, not really paying attention to the exact timbre of the dude's voice. So, and there's been a lot of pollen lately. So maybe I could have excused sounding a little bit off. But yeah, this isn't him. It's somebody pretending to be him. This guy's he's an imposter. And the person calling earlier was a spy. So yeah, this isn't the detective. This is somebody pretending to be the detective. The last time I spoke with Oshi-san was 2 days ago. The day I stayed home from school, I met Oshi-san on the way back from the law school, and we headed to town for lunch and a talk. And after that, Rena and Mion came to check up on me. Whenever I spoke to Oshi-san, they always knew about it. It was like this since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may be well found about him as well. Hello? That's if it even is him, which it's not. Can you hear me, Mabura-san? Huh? Sorry. What did you say? I asked if anything's changed since last time. There was an answer, so I got a bit worried. Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but I should try asking. If I didn't ask now, I may never have another chance. This night when my parents weren't home, I had no guarantees I would make it through the night safely after all. If this is the detective, we should call him to invite him over. And if it's not the detective, we should still make the call. Because either way, regardless of what I say, they're going to try to kill me tonight anyway. So, think of it like we're flipping a coin. Either it's the person I can rely on, or it's the people trying to kill me. Well, Oshi-san, it seems that someone is after me. Really. It could be just a coincidence, but that day I missed school when I was sick, the two of them came to check up on me. Which two? Rena and Mion. They started asking about how I had lunch with you. What next? They left me some mochi when they came to visit, but there was a needle inside. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder, could that have just been a threat? About the needle. It was just one of those common sewing needles you see all the time. There was a hole to put string through. Not that, Mabura-san, the needle itself. That's evidence. It could be used as proof that they threatened you. Where is that needle? That's right, that's it. Well, my mom cleaned it up. What more than likely happened is this. A needle is a very small thing. I fucking chucked that thing like a fucking baseball into the wall as hard as I could, and then I went to bed, you know, kind of in a cold sweat. My mom just cleaned stuff up, and let's be clear, it's honestly a miracle someone didn't step on a fucking needle, but more likely just laid flat. And my mom's pretty cleanly, so she probably just gave the floor a normal sweep when she saw the fucking mochi thrown into a fucking wall. So it probably just got picked up, like maybe, because I mean, we'll go outside, there's probably a few leaves. I mean, it's fall time, so there's probably a couple of leaves that came off my clothes. So it probably got covered by a leaf, and she probably swept it up, put it in the trash. So it's probably gone by now. It's not like I saved the needle, and it's a very small thing. I mean, what am I going to do? Go to the fucking floor of a flashlight and just move the flashlight back and forth and hope that the light bouncing off the metal, you know, will cause a little bit of a little solar flare glare as we see a miniature TN on the ground. And I'm like, oh, there it is. No, like I said, it wouldn't make sense for the needle. Like, one, no matter what, it'd be hard to find. Sort of like I said, I threw the fucking mochi into a wall like a fucking baseball. Honestly, it's a miracle it wouldn't just, like, fly off behind a cupboard or some shit. Like, I could see that. Like, you throw, like... Imagine, like, you duct taped... Well, I mean, duct tape would actually be pretty secure. I'm trying to think of, like, something else. Now I'm just reminded of, like, Brock from Pokemon. You know, the rice balls. Hey, look! A jelly donut! Oh, guys... What stone do you use to evolve an Eevee into a ghost type? What stone do you use to evolve an Eevee into a ghost type? A brick. But yeah, main thing is this. Mochi's like soft, and it's like if I threw a needle, it probably bounced, and most times people have shelves and dressers next to walls. It could have easily, and then of course it's been several days. There's a little bit of wind that'll go through the house. It's fall. I mean, wind is picking up. And like I said, my mom would have cleaned up the one stuff the mochi. I mean, I made a bit of a mess. And more likely the needle would have just got swept up before anyone even noticed. And that's even if it was staying on the floor in a normal place. It could have went behind a dresser. It could have went anywhere. So, even if it's still around, yeah, but I really should have kept it. Fuck. I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I overlooked it out of terror, but that needle was a valuable piece of evidence. I mean, really? I mean, it's just a sewing needle. It's not like it's going to keep any DNA on it. And even then, I don't think, it's like the 1980s when this story takes place. I don't think forensic science exists yet. Heck, I don't think digital exists yet. I think we've barely made it into analog at this point. We have, like, cassette tapes. I mean, VHS don't even exist yet. Don't get me wrong, I still have the 10 VHS uncut box set, Frieza Saga on 10 VHS. I still have the original Pokemon movies from like 1997, 1998, all that stuff, on VHS. But like, I don't think VCRs existed yet. Heck, I don't remember like what year of the 1980s we're in. I mean, I don't think like Nintendo, the NES, existed until like what, 1985, 1986. I don't think most NES games, like the original Mario games and Robo Warrior and Dragon Spirit and Castlevania and Swords and Serpents, and I'm just saying, I don't think NES has even existed yet. I think when it came to gaming, like we still had like, technically there was a big arcade boom for a while. Like there was lots of arcade machines, I think, in the early 80s. But there weren't really consoles, and initially when the gaming consoles started to be a thing, they weren't very popular because they weren't able to do much. You had like Asteroids and Pong. So, I mean, they weren't very good, and they tend to be a bit expensive. And it was just way too expensive, and it was a luxury. It just wasn't that good of an item. And then, once you got to NES, we actually had Mario and some cool shit like that, and, it picked up from there. And honestly, it's amazing to look back at the actual, not only designs of games, as well as cartridges, discs, CDs, as well as digital, but also the way the consoles themselves looked, the specifications as far as like RAM, CPU, all that stuff for consoles, and just how much more powerful each console is than the next, as well as how different development cycles for old video games were, like how Crash Bandicoot 1, they weren't even sure how the Crash Bandicoot games could really play on the original PlayStation. Like, heck, I still say Brave Fencer Musashi is the best game ever made for the original PlayStation. And you can tell just playing it, there was lots of stuff they wanted to include in the game they couldn't because of just limitations of how much space was on the disc and what the PlayStation itself could handle. Heck, there was a demo disc of Final Fantasy VIII that came with it. Heck, most of the Final Fantasies on the original PlayStation required multiple discs. And heck, even when you had like Dot Hack Infection on the Dot Hack games on PS2, they were sold as individual games with discs, but they came with 2 discs. One was original video animation, OVAs, or OVAs, based anime, so it's its own separate anime. Like, there's a bunch of Dot Hack animes, like Dot Hack Twilight, Dot Hack Sign, and multiple others, but there's Dot Hack OVAs that came with the discs, and technically there's like 9 Dot Hack games, though I would say the best and most immersive of all of them was the first real Dot Hack game, Dot Hack Infection, for the PS2, which is a single disc. But I'll say this. While I would say the best game ever made for the PS2 was Shining Force EXA, technically Shining Force 5. Like I said, I think that was the best game ever made for the PS2. I will say that Dot Hack Infection was a really good game, and it was perhaps the most immersive video game ever. That being said, I will say I really enjoyed the original Halo games. And, well, out of the Shining Force games, the original Shining Force was on Sega Genesis, also probably Sega Dreamcast, and was, well, a lot like Final Fantasy Tactics. I'll say this. I liked Shining Force 1 and Shining Force 5. Shining Force EXA. I will say this. I would strongly recommend to everyone out there to play Shining Force 1, the original Shining Force, for the Sega Genesis. That is, heck, you can get it on Steam. You can get a little Sega Genesis collection. You can get Shining Force. Now, there is a Shining Force 2 and 3 that are also on Sega Genesis, and they are very similar in gameplay, but I didn't like them. Same way there was Shining Force Neo or Shining Force 4. I did not like those games. I did not think they were any good. So I would not suggest Shining Force 2, 3, or 4. But I would say Shining Force 1 for Sega and Shining Force EXA are really good. Now as for the PlayStation, obviously the Final Fantasies are really good. Brave Fencer Musashi, Mega Man Legends. As far as PS2, you got things like Dragon Quest VIII. Also, Jessica is very hot. You also have Star Ocean Till End of Time, Wild Arms. I think 3 and 4 were good. And Grandia 3. But, heck, the original DBZ Budokai was pretty cool. Did you know if you launched Kamehameha and your opponent was blocking, if you pause at the right time, you can glitch it past the block? Anyway. As far as Sega Genesis, other than, of course, Sonic the Hedgehog games, you got Sonic 1, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic Knuckles, Sonic Spinball, Sonic 3D Blast. I'll say this. I think Sonic Shuffle was much better than any Mario Party game. Also, let's see. On the Sega Genesis, I would also say think games like Space Harrier 2, Vector Man 1 and 2, Kid Chameleon, Zero Kamikaze Squirrel. As far as PlayStation, you had Spyro, Crash, other stuff I already mentioned, Jaquito, Blam Machine Head, Jersey Devil. There's lots of very interesting titles. I forget why we were... Alright, technology. I'm just saying this. Nowadays, I'm pretty sure most people don't even remember what a fucking payphone was. Like, I remember when I didn't get my first phone capable of... I don't think I got my first cell phone until I was, like, already an adult. And even then, my first cell phone has 0 texting capacity. And even when, like, texting became a thing and you could actually text, I think I was, like, what? 24, 25 years old the first time I had a phone that could text. And even then, it was the old version of texting where you were only allowed to send like maybe like 20 texts a month, and it was like 1 line per text. And then in order to type it out, it took forever because you didn't have a keypad in any way, because now phones have like touch screens, and for a while they had like little Blackberries, little keyboards. But back then you didn't have that. You just had numbers. So if you wanted to text something, you had to literally type it out with numbers. So, okay, you wanted a letter S? 7777. You had to do 4 button pushes of the number 7 just to get a letter S. And say if you like wanted the first letter, you had to push it once and hold, and then twice, and then it was like, at that point we're like 1 step past Morse code. But like nowadays, I'm pretty sure people wouldn't even recognize what a cassette is. People wouldn't recognize... Heck, the only reason people know what a vinyl disc is because that's considered popular now again. Which actually I think is kind of cool. They sound... I like the sound of them. I don't have a record player. But... yeah. They're neat. In concept, anyway. I'm just saying this. I don't think the concept of digital existed at this point yet. Heck, the internet didn't even exist at this point, aside from, like, you know, the Pentagon and shit, unless you're, like, the government. I don't think the internet existed. Heck, I don't think the internet existed for normal people. You know, by normal people, I mean people that aren't, like, in military. Until, like... I don't know, the late 90s? I think most people didn't have internet in their house until like 2003. And even then, in 2003, when you got internet, it was just dial-up, meaning, you know, it was extremely slow, and you couldn't use the phone. Which means this. And you had to basically unplug the phones from the house, to use the internet. And if you want to use the phones, you had to turn off the internet. And it made like fax machine noises every time you connected for some reason. So it sounded like robots screaming in agony every time you wanted to go on the internet. And so you had loud screeching noises anytime you want to turn on the internet. And then it was so slow. And there really wasn't much on the internet at all. It was just, hey, here's some results about stuff you need for a science project. And here's the menu for a restaurant. That's it. That's all that existed. The internet really wasn't a thing. Now it's literally a collection of every library in the world and all of humanity's collective knowledge. Though some of it's from crazy people, some of it's from people that are stupid. I mean, literally, you have information from anyone. So obviously some things could be outright lies. Some things could be from crazy people. Some things could just be people that are really stupid. And a lot of it can just be theories and conjecture. That being said, it is still the largest collection of human intelligence and knowledge that's ever existed. And it's amazing. And that's just the part that I consider, the stuff people that would consider, academic. But honestly, if we're being really clear, like 95% of the internet's just porn. I mean, it does show, what drives humanity? What are we into? And the answer is, 5% of our interest is just discovering the meaning of life and how to, build computers and World of Warhammer, Warhammer 40k, anime, Shinji Ikari, Evangelion, Pokemon, video games, how to purify drinking water, and the other 95% is just hentai. I mean, most of the internet is just hentai. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it does say something about humanity. That's our main driving factor. It's just hentai. But at the same time, I don't mind. I actually enjoy it. In the words of the Skeletor emoji, I'm into that shit. So I don't think there's ever going to be a video where we make it through and I don't start suddenly talking about hi, I'm Lunar D8. I'm going to make inappropriate jokes about sexual stuff. Pretty much. Like I said, hentai. Some of it's tame. Some of it can be, the best way to put it is this. It's like I've said with anime. Saying you like anime is a lot like saying you like movies. There's so many different genres. There's many good anime, many really terrible anime, and there's anime whatever. Same way there's movies. If you say like movie, there's movies in many different genres, and there's some that are outside horrible, and some that are amazing. Same with hentai. There's many different genres of hentai, and there's some that are really amazing, some that are good, and some that are horrible. And, no matter who you are or what you like, there's something out there that you would like. So, if you like tall women with big boobies, that's a thing you can find. If you like cute anime faces, that is a thing that exists. If you like cyberpunk stuff, there you go. I like cyberpunk music. You guys ever listen to the funk music? The PHONK? Sort of like the music you'd expect in a cyberpunk world. Everyone's you've watched too much Serial Lane Experiments and Cyberpunk Edge Runners. Maybe. I'm just saying I like the music, okay? Plus the aesthetic does seem pretty interesting. Though it does also seem like it'd be a shitty world to live in. But I'm just saying the aesthetic is nice. Then the same thing with Final Fantasy VIII. All the Final Fantasies, it looks so pretty. The environments, take a Balaam Garden or the forest, and it looks so. I like walking in the bike trail. I like taking hikes and stuff. I think it looks beautiful. I think it'd be cool to take the old retro backgrounds from video games and make them Elden Ring or Bloodborne graphics with AI. I just think it looks really pretty. I can make a VR chat sort of thing out of it. Take the underground water dungeon from Lake Junon and Mega Man Legends. remove all the enemies and just make it a VR chat hangout. And just start putting like anime posters inside an anime video game. I'm just saying, I like chill, relaxing. I like heavy metal music too, but like it'd be cool just to have the cool environments of a video game to just walk around and chill in and talk to people and just relax. Heck, I remember one time I did try to use VR chat. There's a place where looking out, it's in like a skyscraper or something, had like a bunch of living rooms, and you're supposed to go there and talk to people. And granted, my character's just standing there. I'm just real life. I'm sitting, but I just spend like an hour standing there in front of the window in this virtual world, looking out over an imaginary city because it was raining. It was a big storm, and I would just stand there, just watching the rain in silence, not talking to anyone. No one's around, and I'm just watching the rain, just watching the storm. It's not even a real rain, not even a real city. I'm just like those lo-fi beat things, where you see like the person just sitting there studying, just like the chill music. You guys ever listen to the lo-fi beats music, like music to relax or study to? I mean, that's just. And granted, it's nice to also sometimes just have no music or sound at all. Just enjoy quiet. Because, like I said, usually I'm on the bike trail. I won't have any electronics really turned on. I'll just be enjoying the sounds of nature and the sounds of the trees moving. And that's nice. I mean, I like really enjoying a lot of music, but I also like, quiet sometimes too. I like both a lot, but I would never want a complete abundance of both without the other. It'd be like saying, do I want food or drinks? Do I want like pizza or water? I want both. I need both. I need both food and water. I mean, they're both nice, but I need both. But you're like saying, am I a top or a bottom? I'm both. Okay, I'm a switch. It's like asking if I want food or water. I want both. But main point is I like going for hikes and stuff, and it'd just be cool to have like video games where it's just, like, am I the only one who like went through certain video games and like you go through and you kill all the enemies to where everything's dead, and then you just like casually walk around. There's no traps or nothing. You just enjoy the atmosphere of the game. And I know many games are like have really beautiful backgrounds, but the main point I'm just trying to say is this: like take Final Fantasy VIII, the aesthetics of the clothes, the backgrounds, the music, everything's so beautiful, but the world itself would be horrible to live in. Not only would it be difficult to even financially survive anywhere, let alone be able to afford anything or have a place to live or be treated like a person, but all the other people would be assholes to you, and there's giant monsters everywhere that will like murder you. I mean, here's the thing. If there's a chance I was going to go outside and there's like a giant dragon turtle the size of like a semi-truck, or there were horses with like razor blades in their skull, or like 3-foot tall mosquitoes like out of fucking Fallout New Vegas that would actually make the large mosquito things in New Vegas look like barely an inconvenience. Like the fucking giant mutated animals, like even the death claws, seem like little harmless bunnies compared to the fucking shit in the Final Fantasy games. And I'll say this again, aesthetically, even those look pretty cool. But it's kind of like you go to the zoo and you look at a lion and you're like, whoa, that looks awesome. Or like clouded leopards. They're technically the smallest real leopards, but they're like pretty fucking big still. And also that's just their main body. Their tail itself is actually longer than the whole main body by itself. And they tend to live in trees eating monkeys and they actually like to swim, and they dive into water from trees and catch fish. I'll tell you this, they look like adorable little kitties, but they would definitely murder a human. Like, honestly, even if you took Arnold Schwarzenegger and Mike Tyson at their prime, a single little cloud leopard would probably kill them both. That being said, I mean, Mike Tyson, I think, actually had a straight-up, like, lion or some shit at one point, or a tiger. I think he had a tiger. I don't know if he still does, and I'm sure he loved it. Heck, he probably still does. I mean, even if the tiger's not alive anymore, like, again, I don't know how long tigers live. And also, I don't know if like maybe there might have been a legal issue at some point, so he couldn't like keep it. I do still say Mike Tyson's like the best boxer ever, but we'll say this: I think I watched an interview once where he was talking about why he wanted the tiger, but I don't remember at all what he said. I can't remember a thing. But all I say is, I mean, I hope he enjoyed that, having the tiger, and I hope he still looks back on it fondly. But I don't know if he still has a tiger. I don't know if it died. I don't know, like, old age, or if like there was a legal issue to where like he wasn't legally allowed to have a tiger anymore. Because, I mean, it is an exotic animal, and I mean, honestly, like, I really like zoos. Now, I think zoos should be nice to animals to make sure the animals have plenty of space, but I think zoos are amazing, and one, I like seeing the animals, and two, I think it's really important for the development of both individuals and families and societies for us to have zoos. Because seeing zoos and aquariums not only is something beautiful and amazing and wonderful to do as a family and as a person, but it also helps, you know, human beings to have a better understanding of nature. Because it's easy enough to see stuff on a screen, even National Geographic, and just sort of, you know, not really accept the full gravity of what, you know, the living thing is. But when you can actually see it, well, not only is it a nice thing to enjoy and something you can do as family or friends, but also it's a way to grow yourself as a person and as a society to have more empathy for, well, the world we live in. And also feel, I don't know, less drowned by the concrete urban jungle we all live in. I mean, I spend most of my life living in a fucking factory. So, yeah, most of my waking hours I'm in a factory. So, I'm grateful to be able to make money to, you know, pay bills, even though it's not a lot and I barely get by, but it's nice to be able to see nature sometimes. It's nice to go out to bike trails or the forest. It's nice to be able to just watch a river flow by. It's nice to be able to sit and watch a storm. Like, I know it sounds weird, but I like to sit at my front porch and just drink tea or Pepsi or water and just watch it rain. Watch the storm, watch the wind, watch the trees blow in the wind. I like walking on the bike trails with no music or anything and just looking out over the fields and the farms, the trees and the forests. And I'm saying that the backgrounds in video games, the environments, heck, even the retro games, like take Robo Warrior and Dragon Spirit, the new legend from, like I said, especially Robo Warrior. Or heck, like even imagine a 3D environment of the Mario world. You know, from the original Marios. I know obviously we made games later on for the N64 and shit, but still. The main point I'm just saying, like, heck, take Robo Warrior and put it in like N64, Mario 64, grab it. Or heck, what if you were to take, I know someone did a reverse sort of, like they took the Bloodborne from like PS3, PS4, and made it for PS1. No, of course they can only do like the first chapter of the game, because limitation of the ROM, and even then the graphics were like original Silent Hill type graphics. But it looked pretty cool, and it was interesting to see, like, because the way you have the way, like, it's also interesting to look at different consoles, the way things change between the way things are represented usually in Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, and when you first started getting the blocky sort of N64 type graphics, and then went to PlayStation where you had polygons, but they were just very low resolution polygons, which I understand didn't give you a very realistic look, but it's its own aesthetic. While it is cool to see it reimagined, like say imagine the Final Fantasy VIII characters, but like heck, you guys have seen it with Final Fantasy VII where you took Cloud and all them from the little blocky type characters that had some polygons. They like it was like a half blocky, half. It just sometimes the way code works and the way certain polygons interact. Heck, there was a game called LSD Dream Emulator. It's just given the limitations of the heck. Another way you can look at it is this: each console and the way it generates things, it's interesting and it gives a different aesthetic. And also, that's not just the consoles themselves. Sometimes the developers will have their own choice of like color palettes and everything. Another thing is that certain older games will look better on the old TVs than they will on new ones. The reason why is because there were certain different ways the computer screen existed back then, to where technically old television screens really just existed by more like stained glass. It had like red, green, and blue little bricks that got lit up in different frequencies with cathode rays to give you different colors. And so you use certain palettes with the originals that were supposed to work together with that, with the cathode and those little bricks, to give unique color variations that don't exist. So even if you play the game with its old version on newer graphics, it doesn't look the same. And of course, many of them change the color palettes for, remasters. So while they kind of look, so it does look very different. Main point I'm just trying to say is the environments in a lot of the video games look really beautiful. Heck, take the city of Hinamizawa here. Whether it's looking over a dam and a river and the way the forests are, and honestly, it looks beautiful. But also I wouldn't want to be surrounded by people trying to kill me, or psychopaths, or supernatural oyashiro-sama, or deities that might be trying to, I don't know, kill me, I guess. And also conspiracies and the city I'm in trying to kill me and all that shit. I'm just saying this. The environment of the game that we are playing, it looks beautiful. The trees look so pretty. The sound of the cicadas, as well as all the characters, are just very lively, and I mean, they're all very aesthetically, I mean, hey, they got really cool outfits too. Granted, if I was rich, I would probably just have an outfit clothes choice of like, I would dress like anime cosplay shit. One, if I was rich enough to do it, and two, if I would actually look nice in it. But I wouldn't, because, I am not aesthetically pleasing. And well, yeah. I don't think I have the right body shape to even fit into the aesthetically pleasing clothing, but I'm just saying, a lot of anime characters, the environment's really cool, and the clothing they have, I don't know. I like cosplay stuff. I've never been to a convention. Maybe one day I will be. But yeah, I was just saying, I like video game environments. They look, I don't know, it's relaxing. Like, I'm awful, like, in Minecraft, I have to turn it on peaceful. Because sometimes I'll just get carried away just building stuff. And I'll just lose track of time, and then I'll go through day and night cycle multiple times. Or I'll just stop, I'll put down the controller and I'll just stare up at the ceiling and just start spacing out, thinking about like IRL stuff, or maybe I'll just have my computer on next to me while I'm playing Minecraft on the TV, and I'll just sort of like space out and then just start, looking stuff up on YouTube. And then once I'm doing that, I'll turn right back. And of course, you can't really pause it because it seems like the daylight cycle still continues even if you pause it. Main one I'm just saying is this: it looks really pretty. And I like the environment. It's chill. It's like the lo-fi beat stuff. Or I like listening to like cyberpunk music and all sorts of old cool music. Heck, there's like this stuff called the psychedelic space rock, and heck, there's like, it came from the 80s, the kind of horror synth stuff, and that was pretty cool. And heck, there's like all sorts of dubstep and Skrillex and Korn stuff. Like, I like the music and stuff, and it's cool. I like video games, but it'd be awful to live in them. Like, I'd like the powers, but even then, it'd still be a huge danger even for the people with powers. I'm just saying, it'd be cool to fly and stuff. I just wouldn't want to fight anybody with it. I just want to be able to, like, just have fun. Not like I'd be using powers to hurt people. Like, if I had, like, powers like the androids, I don't think I'd want to be a superhero trying to save people. But I don't think I'd be a villain trying to hurt people either. I'd just be like, hey! I can run fast. Whee! And everyone's like, yes, that's Lunar. Is he a superhero? No. Is he a villain? No. What's he do? He just Naruto runs up and down the fucking bike trail. Just screaming, I can finally run fast. I wouldn't be a hero or a villain. I would just annoy everyone. Like I said, I'm the worst Batman villain ever. I don't hurt anyone or do anything illegal. I just talk to people about my feelings and annoy everybody. And sing terrible karaoke. And go to Dairy Queen and get soft serve ice cream. If it was there, then it would be on the living room wall. Our mom would have already cleaned it up, but my prudent mother had cleaned that living room wall, and there was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palm along the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desk, pulling up the carpet and flapping it around. But I couldn't find the needle. Did my mom clean up everything without noticing it? Do we own a vacuum? I mean, if it's just a normal carpet, I mean, especially if you have clothes and laundry, because it's like, again, we're talking about technology earlier, like, you know, digital didn't exist at this time, internet didn't exist, VHS didn't even exist yet, let alone DVDs wouldn't exist till like a decade and a half after VHS exist. Like, we barely have landline phones and maybe payphones. I'm just saying this. I'm not saying vacuums didn't exist. Obviously, vacuums existed since like the 50s. I'm saying we're in Japan, and we're also at a point where we're like taking laundry out. So if it's just a little carpet that I was able to pull up, then more than likely it gets taken outside and, like, you know, beaten out there to shake up all the dust, and then just dries out on a fucking clothesline like the rest of the laundry. So, honestly, at that point, if it was in the carpet, and if we're going by old style stuff to where, like, it's carpet that I can actually pull up, our mom probably took the carpet outside and, you know, hung it up on a clothesline to, you know, freshen it up. Which means it would be somewhere in the fucking lawn, in the dark, in our fucking massive fucking yard. So yeah, it's just, there's no way for us to find this. It was just 2 days ago. I didn't know what day that collected the burnable trash, but still be in the trash bin in the kitchen. I rushed to the kitchen, opened up the lid of the pail, and poured out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell that it would be incredibly difficult to find the needle in this pile of trash. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know, I'll try running my hand through it. Ow! It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. If I felt a small prick, then I'll be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking the pile of trash in my hand. Ow! Filth flew about. There was nothing more discussing this, but it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued on for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Uchi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. She probably wouldn't be able to see it, honestly. I mean, here's the thing. A vacuum obviously can't see it, but even then, if you're sweeping stuff, I don't, like, sweep stuff into a dustpan and then look into the dustpan, like, evaluating every fucking piece of dirt. I hastily began scribbling on the notepad affixed to the refrigerator with magnet. Was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. I then dashed back upstairs, where I had been keeping Oshi-san waiting for far too long. Hello? How did it go? I couldn't find it. I was really overwhelmed back then, and I see. It would be great if you could find it. Keep it safe. That's right, the needle wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with the hit and run. Also, Oshi-san, that isn't all. Actually, this morning, that van was definitely aiming for me. I couldn't say without a question due to the circumstances at the time. Did you see the license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn! I just flipped out yelling at him back then, but I didn't look at the plate. What failures on my part with the needle and the plate number? I was so focused on just protecting myself that I let out some of the most important details slip my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry, I don't know how much more it was than a white van. Nothing to fret about, Mamoru-san. Anyone would be shaken up after being hit. I guess all of this really isn't a coincidence, is it? Oshi-san started to hem and haw over the other end. I can imagine him folding his arms. Also, Rena is acting strange. How so? What Rena said on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I can say it with confidence that Rena knew what happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than him just simply disappearing. Rena knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year. What would that be exactly? Rena said I was the same as Satoshi. She said something to the effect that the way things are going, I'll end up the same fate as Satoshi. Fate, you say. Exactly what kind of fate did she say you would follow you? Transferring out, she said. Transferring out. Rena said Satoshi's transferred out. So given how things are going with me, I'll transfer out too. Oshi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly. Mamoru-san, that was probably some sort of threat. Or maybe some type of warning? I thought so too. At that point, I started to think. Would it be prudent to sum up everything that happened up till now as machinations of a human perpetrator? Like I said, it's a 50-50 chance that this is the detective. But honestly, this is pretty fucking dedicated to pretending to be a fucking detective. So honestly, this one, we've been talking as long as I have, and I'd be able to parse out your voice. Unless it's somebody like unless they're like methodical, exacting, and patient, this ain't gonna fucking happen. So we can narrow it down to like 99.01% chance that this is the detective. I give it just under 1% that it's not. Obviously, one, people are trying to kill us. Two, we are not emotionally coping with this well. So we also perhaps would need some assistance so that we're not a threat to ourselves or others in the circumstance. So we should invite the police officer over. But we should also be very prepared in case that's not, or someone else shows up in the meantime. So that way if we see somebody that's not the police officer show up, we can then, have some additional weapons and preparations ready. And if it is, then we can let him in, and we take shifts being awake. Other than the theory of it being Rena and the others, I was left with Oyashiro-sama's curse actually existing, the other explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oshi-san, except Rena's strange behavior could be proof of either scenarios. Whether it was Oyashiro-sama's curse being real or everything being part of a conspiracy committed by all of the villagers. I would say it's more of an issue of we can't tell him about Oyashiro-sama's curse, but we can tell him that, hey, a lot of the villagers believe very strongly in the Oyashiro-sama curse thing, and I would like to think that my friends are good people at their core, and that they may have some sort of, psychological condition. Maybe Rena's got a split personality. Maybe since Mion's family's involved in stuff, maybe she's being pressured. Maybe she's being threatened. Maybe she's being told, hey, you need to take care of your Keiichi friend and keep him in line, or else you'll be the one to pay. So it could be that maybe my friend doesn't hate me, they're just scared themselves. And the same way I can't tell my parents, because I don't want to endanger them, they don't want to tell me any more than they have to, so not to endanger themselves or me. Same way if I tell my parents, I would endanger my parents, and I would increase the danger to myself. So they could be doing the same thing. So, it could be that they're just trying to survive themselves. At which point, we have to take care of whoever's pulling the strings behind them, whether it's a supernatural being, which I cannot tell you, or maybe just older members. I mean, we're all still in school. So it could be like adults, or people in like 30s or 40s and shit, who are, maybe manipulating Mion and taking advantage of Rena's psychological instability. Like, I would say Mion's a lot more psychologically stable than Rena, whereas Rena's, a lot of times she goes in that cute mode, which technically that's kind of a regression, which I know a tiny bit about that sort of stuff. It's sort of the idea that if someone has certain traumatic incidents in their life, they sometimes, their personality will kind of revert to a more innocent, naivete, younger version of themselves, to where, like, basically part of their personality will be a piece of it that's a bit more, I don't know the right word, but the idea being is that, you know, in general, you're the same person throughout your whole life, but, you know, your personality can change a little bit with environment and circumstances, as well as you grow as a person. But you can still sometimes revert back to certain personality characteristics you would have had, say, either a few years ago, or just even as an early teenager, or even as a child. And in fact, if you look at many personality characteristics people have, not to go into details, sometimes whether it's PTSD issues, or certain bad things occurring, or things from a person's younger years or whatever, certain parts of your life can be an explanation of why you have certain personality characteristics that would have evolved as, well, not only a natural progression of your own natural personality, but also as survival traits that you learned to sort of, like, say if you sometimes knew that people would have a very severe temper, or would yell or be prone to possibly violence, you would learn to be much more withdrawn, much more quiet, reserved, especially like stuff like if you're younger and a child and you understand that the people that are multiple times taller than you are likely to fucking snap if you don't walk on eggshells. You tend to just learn to be very quiet and almost invisible, and know how to avoid saying anything unnecessary. Which in of itself, being more withdrawn in those situations can cause some issues. And of course, having that said kind of personality, you may actually wind up being more magnetic to people who would take advantage of that, which then reinforces that already negative learned behavior that was created as a survival instinct, that now you need to utilize that survival instinct more rather than healing in order to avoid bad outcomes. Main point I'm saying is that, I guess a abridged version, a concise version of what I'm saying is, many personality characteristics that people have can be traced back to things from their past, whether it's a few years ago or even decades ago. It could be things that may not be absolutely natural to that person's personality, but they could be maybe just dormant aspects of a person's personality that was sort of extracted up to the surface due to circumstances. Okay, again, this isn't very concise. The main point is I'm trying to say is that sometimes you can look at, like, honestly, everybody out there, you can look at a person's personality and you can see that parts of that person's personality is caused by stuff from the past. And then, of course, if you take it to an extreme, there are some people that sometimes will And of course, it's not constant, and it would vary intensely. Think like bipolar sort of stuff, but maybe I don't know if bipolar would be the correct version of how to describe this, but the main point is it's something that would always be there, but never very strong, but it can also be very strong at times. Maybe like imagine if someone having a bit of paranoia. There's always that little bit of paranoia there, and sometimes it can be very, very overbearingly strong. Or take anxiety. Imagine if someone has an actual anxiety issue, and they're always going to have a tiny bit of anxiety, and sometimes it might become very pronounced and maybe unbearable. So, whether it's the anxiety or the paranoia or certain other issues, a person's personality usually has honestly, though, I would say one thing to point back to, but more than likely for something to be a pronounced, prolonged presence in a person's personality, it has to be not only multiple things that are severe, it has to be multiple things, multiple occurrences, and usually it would have to take place over a long period of time. It's kind of the idea that a habit, you can get used to doing something after 3 weeks. The idea is if something's going to alter your personality, usually it has to not only be something very strong, but it usually has to be something that occurs multiple times and usually over a prolonged period of time. I'm just saying, people's personalities can be affected. You can look at someone's personality, you can look at someone's personality and you can see that there are reasons for that. Some of it's the person's natural personality, and some of it's adaptation, corruption, evolution, survival. Growing up? How do you just fucking describe it, man? I don't know. But the idea is this. I would say more likely Mion, like I don't know if Satoko and Rika know anything about what's going on. If they do, they just are being quiet and uninvolved for their safety. Mion, I think she's the most mature and well composed of the group. Obviously, Satoko's got some issues because her brother was Satoshi, so she lost her brother and her parents, and of course she's in a strange place, so she probably feels. And Rika, I mean, she lives in the fucking shrine, doesn't she? And her family's gone. Rather, her family's shit, and what's left of it's abusive. And we've seen lots of, and of course, for her to go to a school, I can kind of understand that. I'm a non-violent person. I've only ever hurt anybody in self-defense. But I'll tell you this. I understand what it's like to be bullied a whole shit ton in school. I know what it's like to have a lot of bad things going on in school. And I know what it's like to have a lot of bad things going on outside of school. It's, especially at that age, it's very overwhelming, honestly. Even as you grow older, it's still, things stick with you. Even if you're not absolutely getting pushed on the negative stuff anymore, if you have a lack of any sort of positive, reinforcement in life, and you feel like your life is just working in factories to make enough to just barely pay rent, and you feel like you're just some worthless, expendable, disposable widget for society, and no one actually cares about you, and it's just, you tend to feel, unappreciated, unwanted, hated, like everyone's disgusted by you, like everybody wants you to die, like everyone doesn't care about you, that you're all alone. That's the thing, it's just, that is kind of depressing when you think about it like that. It's like, you feel like you're all alone in the world, and you feel like nobody cares about you, and you just, I can't remember what a fucking hug feels like. Granted, I get my mom like a 5-second hug once a month. But, yeah. Aside from that... And heck... I still say the happiest day of my life was the day my son was born. And I did everything I could to try to be the best father in the world I possibly could be. I'd give him like 100 hugs a day. I'd feed him, change his diapers, take him to the park, take him to the doctors, teach him to read, teach him to walk, teach him to talk. His first words were daddy. Of course, we had issues with my marriage and other stuff. And of course, since then, I really become estranged from my son, and just I'll always love him and always be there for him, maybe, you know. But at the same time, it's just there are situations beyond our control, and I really don't have a choice of anything. I have no power over anything, and it feels almost like you get betrayed and abandoned by everybody in life. That you do everything you can to be the best person you possibly can be, to love and appreciate those you care about with all your heart, and it means nothing. You try your hardest and it means nothing. Heck, I remember being like 13, doing an IQ test, and I was like 13 years old, 12 and 13 years old, had an IQ of 132. And yes, I've been hit by fucking trucks, and I got like a dozen staples across the left side of my head. I've had swelling in the brain, meningitis, encephalitis, swollen spine, spinal tap. I had like a dozen fevers, 106, even a fever 107, been poisoned, and all that sort of shit. But I'm not dumb, and I'm still fairly intelligent. So, I mean, I have an IQ of 132. I graduated high school with a 4.0, straight A's, with classes like calculus, physics, and chemistry. I worked since I was like, 14, 15 years old? I got Eagle Scout. I don't think I've ever actually broken any laws, aside from like getting a fucking traffic tickets. And even then, those traffic tickets were fucking bullshit. I got one traffic ticket because I got hit by a 75 mile per hour full-size truck that was speeding, slammed into my driver's side, and I stopped the stop sign. And even the person who hit me and the witness all corroborated, saying, yeah, I stopped at the stop sign. And the person who hit me was speeding. And yet, I got a ticket for failure to yield at a stop sign. Even though that area was so well known for accidents. I mean, the person who lives there has their fencing insured. Because like I said, when I got hit, my car spun out and I went flying through the fence. But, because I got fucking T-boned right at the driver's side and it was smashed. But, it's not a miracle I even lived. Heck, I remember seeing my car at the junkyard and thinking, what kind of fucking dumbass decorates a fucking airbag red and white? And I'm like, oh, that's my blood all over everything. I had like a dozen fucking staples across the left side of my skull and couldn't move my left arm for about a couple months. All my ribs were as bruised as possible without being broken. I had black and purple bruises that felt like the texture of basketball up and down my legs. And then it was like, what? About 7 years after that, I had to be in the ICU, the intensive care unit of a hospital, for like 3 days. That was like 7 years after that, because I had like swelling of the brain and swelling of the spinal cord. So they had to like pump shit into me for 3 days to keep me from fucking dying. But that was like, those two incidents are separated like 7 years. But But yeah, that person there, they had that fence insured, and they went to Vegas multiple times a year because people kept crashing through it all the time. But yeah, I was in the hospital, the emergency room, getting my head stapled. Like I had like a dozen plus staples. I can still feel where it is, like on the left side of my skull. I was hallucinating the white police officer as a black man in a Hawaiian shirt. Like I literally, like I'm getting my head stapled, and there's still blood coming out of me. I'm laying in the emergency room, and they're writing me a ticket Like, I can't even, like I said, it's a white police officer writing me a fucking ticket for failure to yield at a stop sign, even though I didn't, yield. I didn't fail to yield at a stop sign. Even the person who hit me and the witness all corroborated the story. And I'm later getting my head stapled, and I'm hallucinating the person writing me the ticket as not even the right skin color. Like it'd be like, imagine, look, if I hallucinated the cop as like Optimus Prime or some shit, and I'm still expected to sign for a fucking ticket. I get hit in the head really hard. Hey, on the plus side, I had Vicodin for like a fucking week. I'll tell you this though, even with Vicodin, I was still in pain. And it still took me like a minute to go from, laying down to sitting up. Though technically they tried to give me tramadol for a while, but my stomach could not handle that at all. I know some friends actually came after a few days to pick me up. They drove over to their place and we played some video games. But I couldn't move my left arm. But I could move my left hand, so I took the controller and I had my left hand next to my left hip, and I took the controller and I put it into my left hand, so I could still move my index fingers and index, middle, and thumb. So I could still play the game. I just had to hold the controller by my left hip because I couldn't really move my left arm very well. I know when I went back to work after that, for a little bit I had to swing my hip and sort of use momentum to sort of move my arm up because I didn't have enough strength to lift my left arm on its own. So what I would do is I would just sort of swing my body to get my left arm up onto a counter in front of me, so then I use my hand to do things. I'm fully recovered since then. Like I said, my whole life is 100+ things that have all should have killed me, but I didn't die, which I'm good. I'm grateful for that. I mean, heck, I'm super depressed, but I've never tried to, and I do appreciate my life, and I like being alive. It's just, I just tend to feel down a lot. Would I don't know, to feel cared about and appreciated and loved and feel safe and, I don't know, feel wanted and respected. It's like I'm a person that I don't really care what everyone in the world thinks of me. I'm not some shallow person that oh, I need everyone to love me, blah 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 blah. It's more like it'd just be nice if I had one or two people I really felt close to and trusted that just, understood me for me, who actually appreciated me. People I could feel safe with, people I could trust. People I would feel that, I actually matter to. Like I said, I do tend to feel very lonely. I will say this. There were some good aspects to my marriage when it first started, but for the most part I'll say this. I was never more lonely than when I was married. And honestly, I would not suggest anyone out there ever get married because it was just, my experience was fucking awful. It was terrible and my marriage was hell. Then again, there's a bunch of other things too. Like I said, I have complaints about honestly every decade of my life. But all in all, I'm still grateful for my life. Heck, I was in Boy Scouts. I did a lot of camping. I enjoyed being able to see the nature. And granted, I don't think I'd ever want to go camping again. I like my bed. I like comfiness and, stuffed animals and stuff. And laying in front of my fan and listening to music. But I enjoyed the experiences of being able to go camping. And even though, yeah, it does feel like, I feel like everyone thinks I'm stupid. Because I just work blue-collar jobs my whole life. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong working blue-collar jobs. But I just don't feel like, it's, like I said, it's not an issue of wanting everyone in the world to respect me. It's just the fact that I just feel like I have no one. And so, but it's just, yeah. And like I said, I got graduate high school. I stayed, lived with my parents for a few years. just because there were no apartments available and I didn't have anybody I could move in with. So, and I'd already been working for a few years at that point anyway. I worked a lot of overtime. I did some savings. In addition to that, I was paying for all my own interests. I was paying tithes in church, the offering to the church. I was paying for my own interests. I was paying for my own bills. I was helping my parents pay rent. And I made some savings. I tried to do an online college, but it turned out to be a scam. So I lost all my savings. And for a while I was required to pay some student loans. And that's funny. My family was poor. I had high IQ. I had graduate honors diploma, straight A's. Calculus, physics, chemistry. I was an Eagle Scout. Yet I couldn't get a single fucking scholarship or grant. Even with the FAFSA and all that, I couldn't get shit. I just got some fucking student loans. For the fucking online college that was a fucking scam. Lost all my savings. Got stuck into a fucking debt. And then I spent a few more years just living with my parents, paying tithes and offering, paying my own interest, paying my own bills, helping my parents pay rent, and paying on those loans. Then eventually I was able to move out. Eventually got married. The marriage went horribly. Got divorced. I'm estranged from my son, but at least he's not around his psycho mother, so at least he's safe. He's happy and healthy where he is, and I pay child support to the people that have him. I miss him every day. I know when he first moved out, I spent a few hours a day just sitting in his room talking to his stuffed animals. I still live in the same 2-bedroom apartment. His bedroom still looks like he moved out like a few weeks after he was 3. But I haven't updated his bedroom since he was 2 years old. I mean, heck, another couple years he'll be a fucking teenager. Or some shit. I don't know what age you guys consider teenage to really start, but in a few years. And I still have his bedroom set up like back when he was 2 years old. I've even made videos of recording it. That way, if I ever have to move or anything, I at least have a record of it, so I can at least look back and see what it used to look like. And of course, and like I said, I'm just happy, safe, and happy and healthy. And I'll always love him. And he's honestly better off where he is. I did my best to be the best father I could be. And always be there for him. But I can also honestly admit my mental and physical health have deteriorated. And he's just better off where he is. But I still miss him every day. And I still want to be as involved as I possibly could be. At least he was coming over to spend the night at one point for a while. But I guess that's honestly not necessarily the normal for most divorces. Honestly, the normal is much worse. A lot of people go through much worse when they go through divorce. All in all, you can say people got through it. What people would say, I was very lucky. But at that point, I feel like it's people saying to a bunch of people walking through a minefield that, yeah, it's like you got hurt a little bit from the explosion, maybe lost part of a foot. But this person lost both their legs, and that person lost both their arms, and that person's blind, and all those people are dead. And I'm like, yes, that's terrible. But, one, it doesn't make me hurt any less. And two, you're telling me that, okay, all these people got through so much worse than me, so why would I ever go back on that field again? Heck, it's like the joke about people starving in Africa. It's like, you haven't had lunch yet, and then it's like, oh, but there are people in Africa starving, you shouldn't complain. I'm like, yes, that's awful. It's terrible that's happening. But I still want lunch. I'm still hungry now. Selfish or not, I still feel the way I do. Yeah, I'm still hungry. What do you guys like to eat for lunch? Don't feel limited to one suggestion. Like, what do you guys eat for lunch? Like, what's a normal lunch for you? Because I imagine a lot of people have a normal lunch to save money. But also, if money were an object, where would you be going for lunch? Like, what would you consider like a treat? Like, what would you consider a really good lunch if money was an object? But also, what's your average lunch too? But I don't know, just I'm just saying, with Rena. Like I said. And I think all people have that to a small degree. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or whatever. But the idea of a bit of a regression of personality, like there are some aspects we have to our younger personalities of when we were kids that may become a bit more strongly pronounced as a sort of, I don't know, I don't want to say safety response or survival instinct. More like falling back into your comfort zone. So like, say if there's a real life scenario that's really fucked up or something, you might become more strongly focused on, some cutesy elements of your younger years, or like video games or Sonic the Hedgehog and stuff, as a sort of escapist mentality to not have to fully deal with certain painful feelings. Or like, say, dark humor. Like, say if you're in a dangerous, scary situation and all of a sudden you're just making dark humor jokes, or you make lewd sexual jokes that are inappropriate. Like, I'm thinking like DBZ or, anime jokes. Like, you ever watch those abridged anime things? It's like, the person's like, you see like the girl fly through the sky and it's like there's fighting monsters and demons and there's explosions and buildings and people are bursting into flames, and then the guy's like talking about how the girl's panties were a certain color when she's flying through the air. It's like yeah, it's a bit of an odd thing to be commenting on the girl flying through the air shooting a missile launcher's panties, but it's better to focus on that than the burning building next to it with the flaming like school children that are all being fricasseed, and you can see their flesh rotting off with the the crispiness. Like, you just see, oh, that was a 7-Eleven right there, and now it's a crater. There were people in that store when it exploded. How about I just focus on what color her panties are, and how much the jiggle physics are on those giant titties of the girl with the fucking missile launcher fighting the person with like 30 swords that all seem to have the spirits of demons and for some reason tentacles. Okay, I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going. Okay, I've got off topic enough. I keep saying I'll try not to do that. I don't know. Rena was involved. Rena had to know something. Rena was suspicious. What exactly was Rena? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with the prior string of mysterious deaths. I seem to recall Oshi-san had admitted that he had dug into Rena's past a little. He was probably just downplaying when he said a little, meaning he had actually dug pretty deep, most likely. I wanted to hear about Rena. I wanted to know what happened at the previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Rena was somebody I should suspect, no, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I felt I had but just my parents being around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residences close to the Mabara residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I had never felt as much resentment towards my father's artistic temperament, and the fact that he had this house built in such a remote location as I did right now. I wondered if I would still be here by tomorrow morning. So I had to ask right now, because I had no idea when the next chance would come. Oshi-san, I have something I wanted to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me. Sure, ask away. Even though he was so far away on the other end of the line, this was the most reliable he had ever felt. I wanted to ask about Rena, about what happened at the previous school. Actually, regarding Rena's... I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. Since I was so focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first, but I finally realized it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making delivery and past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be good. That would ruin all the work I put in making like my parents weren't home. I need to answer the door. Hello, Mabara-san? Sorry, someone seems to be at the door. I'm going to go see who it is. A guest? I see, my apologies. Should we end this phone call now? That would be a problem. No, I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave the phone on? It's fine, I don't mind. I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed down the door. I needed to make up a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch it was the lady who called right before Oshi-san did, in which case it would be one of the neighbor's friends with my mom. I'll just say my mom isn't feeling well and went to bed early. That would be the easiest option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake my mom if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell so much, you'd normally give up and go home, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out the visitor. A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside, I had prepared for this moment. I tried to escape by imagining it was the easiest person to deal with, one of my mom's friends. Good evening. Good evening. Rena. There shouldn't be any reason for Rena to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy, because it was just as I was about to ask Oshi-san about Rena. I wish I could have chalked this up to mere coincidence, but those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back to me. There's nothing this old man doesn't know.